Hello, you beautiful little marketing bees. You're tuned into Season 2, Episode 76 of the Marketing Buzzword Podcast.
This is the Marketing Buzzword Podcast, the podcast where we dissect the world's most common marketing buzzwords. Hold on tight. We are about to fly around the beehive to see the latest buzzwords that stuck to the marketing bees.
Hello again and welcome back to the Marketing Buzzword Podcast. I really hope that you've had an amazing month and a half off, and I am refreshed, ready and raring to go for this next batch of podcasts. And honestly, there are already some great guests lined up, and if you can think of anyone else that you think will be perfect for the show, please do hit me up. And let's get on with it. So, this is the podcast which helps you to understand what all of these business and marketing buzzwords actually mean and how they can be helpful going forward. I'm your host, Ben Roberts, and in this show, I am the marketing bee in charge of making sure I get on the right guests and ask the right questions to make sure that these words and phrases actually make sense. Now, in today's show, we're going to be really looking at something it's not quite a buzzword per se, but this is something I've been thinking about a lot. And it's something that I really want to get on. So we're talking about marketing qualifications. And it's something that people aren't necessarily talking about as much now, but that actually makes it more intriguing. And it's something that people don't understand. So, this podcast is powered by Talkative. Talkative is a company that brings together live web chat, voice calling, video calling, and co-browsing together in one package embedded into your website. This allows you and your business to truly engage your customers, offer quick and effective resolutions and improve the customer experience. You can find out more at talkative.uk. And one more thing, if you are going to be loving the show again and you haven't already, please do leave a review on iTunes. It will make my absolute day. And if you leave a comment one as well, I will read it out at the start of the next show. Right, that's more enough about me. Let's talk about this week's guest. Now, this week's guest, an expert buzzword bee, is a guy called Peter Sumpton. Peter has worked within the marketing profession ever since leaving university via various organisations, from SMEs to large multinational PLCs, in a number of different market sectors, including media and manufacturing. Today, as a tutor and podcaster of marketing, Peter covers the entire marketing genre, from strategic planning to creative thinking to customer engagement, culminating in the ultimate goal in helping people gain professional marketing qualifications. Having been in this position himself, he knows exactly what it takes to pass a CIM, that's a Chartered Institute of Marketing qualification, and become a chartered marketer in the process. The passion and commitment for the profession he loves, marketing, can be infectious. Helping others succeed and pass the CIM qualifications by focusing on specific individual assignments, not generic marketing studies, is where Peter's teachings differently. Working through theories and concepts, referencing case studies, making each part easier to understand and implement as the studying becomes fun and engaging. Now, this is a really, really important conversation. And although it's not necessarily a direct buzzword, it's actually something that people often maybe get wrong, or there's misconceptions around qualifications, and that is also what I want this podcast to be about. It's not just about breaking down buzzwords, it's about breaking down things that people have wrong assumptions of, or not necessarily wrong assumptions, but trying to actually make sure that people's assumptions are either right or wrong. So, that's enough from me. Let's get on with the show! Hi Peter, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Ben.
Hey, good evening. I'm so excited to have you on, because this is a really interesting conversation that we're going to talk about. Well, you're going to talk to me about today, and I'm intrigued to see what you're gonna throw at me, and I'm a little bit worried about it, Peter. So I'm going to start off with a question for you, and we're talking about marketing qualifications. So,
yes, we are. Don't worry, I'll be gentle.
Well, I do like to put up a bit of a fist fight, Peter, so Don't be too gentle, because then I don't want to beat you, knock you down, and then it gets a sort of a horrible game. Then we're not friends by the end of the podcast. The listeners are unhappy. I'm unhappy, and it's just a horrible thing to happen.
That's happened a lot to me while I've been podcasting, actually. So yeah, I get it. I get it.
Well, let's try not to. Let's have a nice friendly fist fight on this one. So
okay, sure.
Marketing qualifications. So, what are they? I think that's the easy part of the question. That's my little left sort of teasing left jab. And are they actually still is there a point to them still in 2019? Because things are changing so quickly, Peter. Are they still relevant? Are people wasting their time?
Sure. Okay. So the first part of that, what is a qualification or a marketing qualification specifically? Well, for me, there's being a tutor of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. I'm going to start with that. And they are essentially the governing body of marketing, if you like. And a marketing qualification gives you the basis. It gives you a basic understanding at a low level, a basic understanding of what marketing is, how it works, how it functions, and potentially some other buzzwords in there as well. It's important to say that they're not the be-all and end-all, surprisingly enough, although I am fundamentally fully 100% in the corner of having a marketing qualification. They're massively important, and we'll get onto that later on. But a marketing qualification for me shows that you are committed to marketing, that you want to be part of something that is better, and you want to develop yourself and your understanding of the marketing genre. On to the second part, are they still relevant? Yes, of course, but I'm bound to say that. I'm going to say nothing else. As a tutor, I'm not going to say you don't need one. Can people succeed without them? Yeah, of course they can. So you look, for example, prime example is Gary Vaynerchuk. You look at what he does. He prides himself of the fact he's got no qualifications, that he flunked out of school, he hated it. That's brilliant, fantastic. There's not many people in the world that can do that. I follow Gary V. I think he's excellent at what he does. But the thing that I don't necessarily agree with him on is the level of education that people need. Now, you don't need it to succeed, like I've said, but it gives you a good basis, a good grounding of that knowledge to start off with. Now, you can take that grounding, you can take that knowledge. Once you've started, you can work out yourself if it's for you or not. And that's for any type of qualification. So you could get a book, you could get your qualifications from reading. But what a qualification, an actual piece of paper says, is that you're committed to it, you know it, and from that, you can understand whether it's for you or not. And that is why they're massively important. And that goes from the basis of getting a bit buzzwordy, the 7 Ps, Porter's 5 forces, etc., all those types of models and theories and concepts, right up to applying them in a practical way. So that takes you onto the level of people like Mark Ritson, who is the anti-Gary V, if you like, it basically says, if you haven't got a qualification, you shouldn't be in marketing because you do not understand it.
It's an it's an interesting thing. This is why I want to cover this in as a buzzword, because it's something that really divides opinion. It's something that actually I'd say there's 3 distinct schools of thought. There's those that say yes, marketing qualifications are amazing and actually they have a real place. There's others that say no, bollocks to things. You don't need any of that. You're your own person. You don't need a qualification to tell you that you're any good or not. And then you have the other ones who are like, I can sort of see why it's good, but I actually can't almost see the relevance in today's world. So from what you were saying then, is, I guess, way to look at qualifications is almost as not necessarily as a way of being the top in your industry. Qualifications won't necessarily take you to there, But actually what it does do is it helps raise the overall standard of the industry. That's maybe what qualifications are. It's bringing people up to a same level. So I guess when you go in and you do a degree, so for those who are listening who've done degrees, the first year of your degree may feel like a waste for some of you. For some people they learn for some people they learn a lot. But I guess that the idea of that first year is getting everyone up to a same level. So when they teach all this stuff, everyone has the same sort of grounding. And I guess is that the way that people should view marketing qualifications, not as a way of saying, I've got X, Y, Z, so I know all these things about marketing. And should they look at it from that way, or am I making it maybe too simplistic?
The fundamental basis of it, yes, you're correct. But the difference with any good qualification is the practical application afterwards. So you take a CIM qualification, for example, and you will not pass it on theory alone. You just won't. Because what they've started to do, and believe me, the CIM has got its own faults, but what they're starting to do very well is say, this is a particular module. So one of the modules is mastering digital channels. This is a module. The outcomes are going to be this. But to pass this, you have to apply it to an organization of your choice. So straight away, people can't just read and write. They have to be involved. They have to speak to people, potentially in the industry, definitely in their organization, to understand what's going on. So yeah, they might end up with a piece of paper, but what it also helps them do is to grow and develop within a business and within marketing.
No, that's an interesting school of thought, and I like that as well. It's actually trying to broaden horizons, isn't it? And actually, people can easily see marketing as marketing is actually, it's quite insular. And actually, look, we only look to marketing, but actually, when we try and actually bring things from outside, we speak to more people from other industries or people who don't necessarily associate themselves as marketers. There's actually so much that we can take from those people. Now, I guess one of the big criticisms of that, though, is almost like say CIM has its faults, as along with almost every other
yeah, absolutely,
organisation that has exams or has qualifications. So the biggest argument is that, again, I come back to it, is the relevancy. How long? So if people did a CIM qualification as our example, by the time they've actually done it, how long is that actually relevant for? Do you have to keep getting, because you talked about it actually as bringing up the baseline, do you have to keep constantly have new marketing qualifications all the time in order to maintain your bottom level? Because otherwise I see it as that's a really, really expensive way of doing CPD, because I can understand actually, yes, it's good, you get the theoretical knowledge, you're starting to apply some of the practical stuff, but God, it takes a long time. The industry moves really quickly, and actually, it's expensive. So, how do people work around that as if that's in their mind?
An easy way to look at this, I love a good analogy. I love it. I love comparing things to other things because in my brain, it makes sense. You step out of what you're looking at and you look at it from a different point of view, and you think, well, actually, I get that. So, my dad was a joiner. Okay. He was a joiner for 45 years, I think it was, in the same company, a long time. And he learned his trade. I don't even know what qualifications he got, whatever, but he learned his trade, and for 45 years, he did it. If you go on an apprenticeship now or something to learn to become a joiner, you don't stop learning as soon as that apprenticeship is over. You continue to develop your skills as new tools come on the market, as new ideas come on the market, the way to use wood in different ways. So you never, ever stop learning. So anybody that's listening, please don't think, as I did when I started my qualification, I'm going to get this and people are going to want to hire me on the spot because I've got a qualification, because it ain't going to happen. You need to apply it practically, and you need to continue that development. And yes, you don't need a qualification. You don't need to start with one. You pick up a book, read a marketing book, and you've got it. But how do you know if you are actually understanding it? One, you either apply it practically, and there's not many companies that will choose somebody that says, well, I'm reading a marketing book, so, I know what I'm doing. Or two, you get that ground base level qualification, which you can grow and develop from.
Yeah, I like that idea. Again, it's that constant that CPD, and that's bringing in those other experiences, using it as your build. I guess using the qualification as your building block, but then adding all these life experiences and business experience on top of it. So, but if you say you did a module on, I say this mastering digital channels, okay?
Yeah.
You've done that. Now, in 5 years' time, is that still relevant? Do people still care? Because I guess the way I look at it is, you've got through school, you do your GCSEs. They're the most important thing in the world. You do your A levels. Your GCSEs don't matter. You do your degree. Your A levels don't matter. So, are you only as good as your last qualification? Does that make sense? Because it's almost like once you've done it and it's now 5 years, does it matter that I did an A level in biology? Could I tell you a huge amount about it? No, that was it feels like it's so long ago now. So do they run out of relevance quite quickly? And then do you have to keep almost adding a new qualification on top in order just to show that you're still doing this?
I think that sits fundamentally in the genre of lifelong learning. And going back to what we were saying before, I mean, my qualification was in a long time ago. Let's put it like that. But I like to think that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to marketing and getting people over that line and getting that qualification. So if I look back at what I wrote in my exams, one, I'd probably be embarrassed. Two, I couldn't read it because my writing's terrible. But three, it probably wouldn't be relevant now, because when I did my qualification, this internet thing, to coin a Gary V phrase, and I'm going to stop mentioning him because I probably mention him too much, is I think people were calling it the information superhighway when I did my degree. So some of it isn't relevant. But the thing is, the fundamental basis, the concepts, and the things that we develop marketing strategies around are still there, are still massively important. We still talk about the 7 Ps. We use SOSTAC, PR Smith's SOSTAC, the race model produced by Dave Chaffee and Smart Insights. That will be here for a long time to come. And it's these core concepts and theories that stick with us. So yes, what you wrote for an assignment or an exam might not be as relevant in 2, 3, 10, 15, 20 years, but the basis that you developed it around and all those core concepts and your mindset as well, getting into that mindset of, because if you think about it, marketing hasn't changed. It's still exactly the same as it was 100 years ago. It's just people change and channels change.
Yeah.
And if you can get into that mindset of structured approach to your strategy, then that will stay with you forever.
I think it's a really interesting way of looking at it, isn't it? It's the stuff actually a qualification isn't necessarily relevant. It comes down to a bit of perception, isn't it? Do people still see, if you had a qualification from 10 years ago, do they see it as still relevant? And actually, as long as you can prove that actually the stuff that's there, you know that you've actually got that within your mind. Actually, that's not really necessarily about for other people, it's about for you. And maybe that's the way you're looking at it. It's actually, these qualifications some people may find them important from an external point of view, but actually it's about you. It's about you knowing that you're mastering your trade. You've got these fundamentals right. So actually, when you go out there and you consult or you work within the industry, you know that you've got the grounding in order to be able to make a success of it, and not just actually guessing on a whim. You've actually got some sort of theoretical knowledge that's been proven to back it up.
Not just that, though. It shows that 90% of the people that have that are committed at that stage in their life.
I guess that's almost like a degree as well, isn't it? Yes, you've got a degree, and a lot of people, but actually, how many other people haven't stuck it for the 3 years? It's that thing is actually, you've actually made a commitment, not just in terms of monetary value, but also in a time, and actually you've really committed, I want to learn something. Whereas anyone can say, I attended a webinar about how to do content marketing. And that actually leads me nicely onto sort of another point that I wrote down here, was actually courses versus qualifications. Courses seem to be a big thing at the moment. Every expert marketer is coming up with a course. And they're coming up with, I've got an expertise in this, so I'm going to come up with a course. Now, is the difference between the course and a qualification, literally the paper that it's written on. So would you say that there is enough value in courses? Because people can spend a lot of money on some of these courses because people have got the practical experience. And it's almost like, what are some of the similarities and differences? Because it could be perceived by some people that literally you've got a certificate at the end of it, a nice pretty certificate from an awarding body. But actually, what else have I got out of it? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that question you posed at the end, what have I got out of it, is the fundamental thing that you need to think about before taking on any qualification, any course, or whatever way, shape, or form it may be. You look at some courses and they're free. You look at some courses that might be £5. You look at some, they're thousands. And I'd always err on the side of caution and speak to a lot of people and understand what, one, you're going to get out of it, but two, what do you want to get out of it? So is it a case that you want to be really specific about maybe your career, or not even your career, just something that you want to bring into a business or for yourself in that 6 to 12 months coming up? So it might be a case that, okay, I don't need a qualification to learn about PPC. What I need is a course. I need a 3-day course that's going to teach me the basics, show me where I can go, show me what I need to do, and I can learn the rest. And I think that's the difference, what you're going to get out of it. But having said that, you also need to consider what you're willing to put into it. Are you willing to commit to 18 months of your life? Or do you feel you can only commit to 1 or 2 days? And it's that balance. How much are you willing to commit, and how much are you willing to stay that qualification until the end? Because I wouldn't want to take anyone through a CIM qualification that wasn't prepared to work hard for it, because it is a lot of time and effort. And again, going back to what we were saying, it's not just about that piece of paper. It's the fact that you've stuck at it. It's the fact that you must have learned something over this time, because the CIM have told you have. So you've got people, authoritative people, regardless of what you think about authority and education. You've got these people that should know what they're talking about, telling you, yes, what you've written is correct. Now go and apply it practically. And again, that's where courses could come in. You get the grounding of a qualification and you top it up with courses, with specific niche areas, which I think, there's a lot of things online that teach you everything. But one thing to consider when you do sign up to courses is how much interaction are you going to get? One, who you can learn from, and two, your peers. So it's great having an online course if you're stuck on some kind of coding for WordPress, for example, and a 2-minute YouTube video will tell you exactly what to do. But if you want to build and develop a website and really understand it, are you going to sit there for an hour's course? Well, dependent on your base level knowledge of coding, maybe, yeah. But if you haven't got a freaking clue, it's going to be a lot easier to maybe have that, but also have somebody you can ask questions and you can actually speak to, or somebody that is in the same boat that you can both tackle that question.
No, I think that's a really interesting point, isn't it? It's actually looking at different stages in when it's relevant, different levels, different what you really want to get out of it. I guess, especially with I love that PPC example. Again, it's going on a full marketing qualifications where it's going to take you 6 months to be able to learn that stuff. Actually, I would say that the fundamentals of marketing don't necessarily change, and actually, the qualifications are so relevant for the fundamentals, the groundwork, the foundations, but actually maybe not so, maybe in some cases, but maybe not so in terms of stuff that's changing right here, right now. So you need to know how to suddenly win some followers on Snapchat. That's not a qualification. That's actually something that's really niche, and actually a course could show you how to. That's someone who's actually built up a nice following and done that sort of stuff. But actually,
or you buy them.
Yeah,
that's a little trick that people can have. That your listeners can have that one for free. Just buy your followers.
Yeah. Well, this is the stuff, isn't it? And this is where you and I have talked about vanity metrics before. It's a really interesting sort of world we're living in. And one thing that sort of sprung to mind as you were talking then was actually, in terms of people learning this, when you say about the commitment, does it make a difference if people went full-time or part-time? Does it matter whether people go in and try and do these qualifications and understand fundamentals? If they're a CEO versus there, I can understand that the answer is obviously going to be yes, a CEO can still learn the fundamentals. That's almost a no-brainer. But in terms of actually building at time, because yes, they're committed to the industry, they wouldn't have got to being a CEO or CMO more likely if they weren't committed to the industry. So why should they go back? Is it just to rebuild a grounding in the industry? Because it takes a lot of time. So if they haven't got that thing and they haven't got that credibility already, there's almost something wrong. But almost you can understand why they'd want to go back. But the time it takes, because it's such a commitment when they've got an organisation to be managed of, how does all that fit together?
So I suppose the first thing to mention there is if you reach CMO, directorship level, or whatever it might be, doesn't necessarily mean you should be there. That's one thing that I'm slowly learning.
Yes.
And I've heard that more than once in the past few years as well. So that's the first thing to mention. But if you have got there and you are looking to learn or develop a skill, then I think it's a bit of a fallacy that you haven't got time. It just means you're not managing your time correctly. And now I'm no timekeeper, I'm no time manager. But one thing that I've learned with doing a podcast, with having a full-time role, with looking at tutoring and doing a lot of other things on the side, is if you look at where you spend your time, you can always find time to do what you really, really want to. So I have a number of students that come to me and say, well, I'm struggling, I haven't got time for this, I haven't got time for that. My first question to them is, what happened on EastEnders last night? And then they say, oh, I don't watch EastEnders. So my second question is, all right, Corey, all right, what do you watch? And then we get to Netflix, or we get to Black Mirror, or whatever, or Fortnite, playing Fortnite, whatever it might be. And how long do you spend on that? Oh, I only spend an hour a night. We'll sack it off. There's your hour a night, 1 hour a night, 7 hours a week. Start with that. If it's not for you, you've only lost 7 hours out of a week of, I'm no good at maths, so let's just leave that, out of a week of X amount of hours. Yeah. It's not many. You can always find the time. The second thing, the full-time, part-time thing, there's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what fits in with your lifestyle. Now, you can always find time, but, and people are comfortable with a particular lifestyle. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But there's no excuse to say I haven't got the time, because you can find time. Believe me, you can. But the full-time, part-time thing it's quite an interesting one, because if you think about it, another analogy coming up here, if you think about it, if you go to the gym, I want to lose weight, I want to build muscle, etc., etc., you could do that full-time. Great, you'll get there a lot quicker. You could do it part-time as well. So you won't reach those heights as quick, but eventually you'll reach it. And if you're really passionate, that part-time will probably become full-time. And it leads us nicely back to what we were talking about as well, in that you can go to the gym and you can actually practice building muscle, cardio. If you want to run a marathon, etc., get out there and start running. You don't need any books, you don't need any qualification, and you can build that muscle, and you can go for that run, and you can run that marathon and achieve those goals. But the one thing I would say, going back to, linking it back to a qualification, is that if you're reading about how to build muscle, if you're reading about how to run a marathon, and you're doing it at the same time, that is massively different to just doing one and the other. Plus, if you're just reading about how to build muscle, you ain't going to build the muscle. You need to go to that gym.
Yeah, no, I really like that. There's a couple of points I want to pick up in there. The first one is, again, the full-time versus the part-time. I guess I'm slightly biased in that because I went to university part-time. I did my degree part-time, and I absolutely loved it and thrived off it because I got a job in marketing. Mm-hmm. I didn't really want to go to university. Everyone was going to university, and I got a job, and they'll pay for me to go to university. I'm blessed. And that really helped spur me on, because I did my degree over 5 years. Part-time, I was applying marketing stuff on a daily basis and learning. So actually, by going part-time, I don't believe that you actually necessarily go slower.
Because, okay, cool.
Because it takes you more time. That's actually against maybe the tortoise and the hare race. Because it's almost like, yes, it's taking you longer to get the degree, but actually you've been applying stuff as you've gone along, and you can say, this is relevant, this is not relevant, this is there. And actually, by the time I got to the 5 years, at the end of my 5-year degree, I'm actually ahead of the people that have done the 3-year degree. Because I've now got 5 years of industry experience, and I can tell you what's going here. So they're working in their graduate jobs, their first role, and I'm already at a management level because I'm able to practically apply, say yes, relevant, not relevant. Oh, is all these learned experiences I've had. So it's a really interesting way of looking at things. I guess because of my bias, maybe that I'm an advocate for part-time, because I really see the benefits of being able to blend this learning. There's nothing wrong with full-time learning. I put that out there, I guess, because I haven't done a full-time learning role. But I think actually there is, people go, actually it takes 5 years to do a marketing degree part-time. Well, actually, you're not just doing a marketing degree part-time. And because actually, you can always find the time. Because you have loads of time to actually then be able to go out and do practical marketing. Mm-hmm. You can always find the time. Again, the amount of things that I try and balance, I amaze myself sometimes. I guess one of the big things for me is I don't play games consoles. Yeah. That actually sucks so much time out of people's lives. Children. I don't have children at the moment. So I want to, and it will happen. But at the moment, I'm working as hard as I can, doing much as I can, because I want to focus on stuff that's really important. The kids become later, and it'll be really important to me. So I want to be able to spend the time on that. But right now, does spending 2 hours playing FIFA or Fortnite, yes, I may be slightly more relaxed. But do you need to play it for 2 hours to be relaxed?
But would you be more relaxed?
Would
though?
I? Yeah, because I'd end up getting frustrated myself.
Yeah.
I end up punching screens and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like I have to win. If I do this stuff, I've got to go all out and I've got to win. So it's a really interesting point of view, and I love the idea that you can always find the time. It depends on your commitment level.
And again, going back to what you were saying there, it's a case of you did it over 5 years, but what were you? So you were studying over 5 years. What else were you doing in that time? You were applying it practically. You were working. The people that did it in 3 years, what were they doing in the time that they weren't studying? I very much doubt it was going. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not, dissing everybody that does a 3-year degree and focuses on that solely, because for some elements you have to. But for marketing, the practical application is as important as the qualification. It just is. Yeah.
No, I think that's I'm an advocate of blending the two, and I think it's there are a number of faults with qualifications in terms of as we addressed, of potentially being too slow, quickly becoming irrelevant and stuff. But actually, and no one version or the other is as good without the backing up of any one. So you can't just do a qualification and then not back it up with some CPD, some qualifications, some practical applications. You can't just do a load of courses, because actually, have you really understood the fundamentals of marketing that actually mean that is a viable thing? Just because you believe someone, that could have done that, whatever it is, because of luck. And actually, it could actually just be right place, right time. The amount of people that succeeded with right place, right time, amazing. But you can't build a business on being in the right place, because, you're not that person. That time is gone. It's a different world. But actually, the fundamentals, I guess, having a qualification mean that you can understand when those things are changing, how to identify some of those gaps yourself, and not just go, oh, I found it, or following someone else. You actually be able to forge a bit more of your own path, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I would say, going back to state education, if you like, is that the difference that you need to think about when taking on a marketing qualification, CIM qualification, or any kind of accredited qualification outside of the system, if you like, is that when you're in school, there are levels, and everybody is told you are trying to get to this level and that level and that level. And that's fine, but then you end up with a load of people knowing the same stuff at the same level, which isn't exactly ideal. With a specific qualification, for example, CIM, yes, there are levels. Of course there are. How do you monitor who passes and who fails, who's good and who's bad? But it's the application, and it's completely down to you to apply it as you want. As an examiner, it's massively frustrating when you know that people are trying to put things into assignments just to put them in. just to say, oh yeah, I can squeeze this in here. I can squeeze a reference in here. Where if they're taking a step back and thought, this examiner is going to mark 50, 100 papers, how can I make mine stand out? How can I make it easy for them to mark it? Be creative and be different. And that's the fundamental difference with your education growing up and then a particular qualification. You can be as creative and inventive as you want, as long as it's applied correctly.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's people understanding the people will say that actually qualifications are too rigid, but actually they're as rigid sometimes as you make them. Yes, there have to be rules and there have to be levels, but actually, you're not in school anymore. You don't have ABC questions. You don't have you got 2 marks for writing up to 4 lines worth of stuff. Actually, you give an assignment, and it's up to you to how you make that assignment. I know little things, even like with people's CVs. It's like you can put a hyperlink on your CV. And you can actually have a website. That is just your front cover. And actually you can have a whole world. You don't have to put everything you've ever done on that front of that CV. Same thing there. No qualification on an assignment. Yes, you find out what's relevant. How can you bring in this? Do you have to design it in exactly the same way? Some of them will be specific. Some of them may not be. It's your thing to own. As long as you're within the rules. Rules help actually understand, actually have you met the level. But actually don't lose yourself because you feel like you have to be constricted or you are restricted to doing something that you feel like I need to be like everyone else. No, you're your own person.
Yeah. And that can be a huge problem for certain people, particularly and strangely enough that have come from an academic background. Doing a marketing CIM qualification, that's one of the first things I tell anybody that does that. You're not writing an academic paper. You need to look at these assignments as if somebody has put this on your desk at work and said, I need you to do this. The caveat to that is it needs to be backed up by concepts and theories and references. Yeah. That aside, it is a working based applied qualification. And the more you apply it and the more you put it into practical application, the better it will be and the more you'll get out of it.
Yeah. And as a sort of wrap it up, how long would an average CIM course take, for example? So you say about the commitment level. How much commitment is commitment? If that makes sense. Because people will go, oh, okay, it's commitment. I really want to commit to that, but actually I can't commit to it, or I don't know when someone says commitment, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, sure. So I would say anybody asking, you have different levels. So you have, I don't know why, but you have level 3, 4, 6, and 7. 7's like post-grad.
Well, why would you start with level 1? God.
I know. Keep it simple, but...
Well, 3's bigger than 1. It makes you sound like you've already started from somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So level 3's your grounding, level 4's intermediate, level 6 you're getting there, level 7... You know everything in the world, and you're just there for a laugh. But basically, I look at level 4 and level 6, and I say, give yourself 18 months. It's 3 modules, and you can do as many modules as you want in a certain sitting, and there's 3 sittings each year. So I say, give yourself the time. Weirdly enough, they're April, July, and December. I don't know why. April and July, a bit close together for me, but anyway, it's probably summer holidays, etc., things like that. But I always say 18 months. You can do it in 12, but that's like some good go in there. That is really good. And never try and tackle 2 in one go. So 18 months is really what I would say for a qualification.
Oh, brilliant. No, I think that's been an incredible insight, I guess, because that's why I wanted to talk about. Although maybe marketing qualifications isn't something that is a buzzword that everyone's talking about right now, it's actually something that people talk about a lot. It's something that people don't necessarily understand, and part of this is buzzwords, I guess, that people don't understand or try lose sight of actually why things are important, what they actually mean, and why they're relevant. And that's why I was really keen to get you on, because this is what I really want this to be about. It's about breaking down things so we can actually understand. Are they relevant? What's the point? Why am I even considering, or why am I not considering something that actually could have a huge benefit on me personally? So thank you so much for your time, Peter. But
no problem. So just before we wrap up, I just want to say to say this thing, and it takes us full circle, really, and why is it important, particularly a marketing qualification. Okay, so for me, and I did a post about, say, 8 months ago, and I called it Colouring in Department. That's what it was called. And I did the post because a lot of people were talking to me and saying, "Oh, go colouring in department. How's the pens?" Etc. Like the IT department, you switch it on and off. Like HR, box of tissues for people cry, whatever. It's a load of rubbish. But essentially, I turned it around and said, we are the colouring department because colours mean things and they associate with different things, and it's up to us as marketers to do that in our branding, our advertising, and our comms to associate colours with different things and our target market, etc., etc. But the crux of the matter is, why is it important that we have qualifications? Well, quite simply, would you let an unqualified plumber service your boiler? No, you wouldn't. Would you let an unqualified accountant do your tax return? Christ, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't touch them with the barge pole. But yet, we let anybody go into marketing. Anyone can say that they're into marketing. And for me, this is where the CIM really need to step up and say, well, no, to be qualified, to say you understand what marketing is, to say you practice marketing, you need one of our qualifications. You need this to say that you practice. And if you don't, then you ain't practicing marketing. Because you look at what's happening, and other than entrepreneurship, which is a whole other ballgame and another buzzword that you probably want to cover, marketing is everywhere. Marketing runs the world, and I defy anybody to tell me differently, because it fundamentally does. What other department has to have a touch point in everything? What other department gets labeled with absolutely everything? You need a presentation, you go to marketing. You need to know about your core market, you go to marketing. You need to get in front of customers. Well, you don't go to sales, because sales is the end part. It's the end bit. It's the closing part. You go to marketing, and it baffles me that it is that important in this day and age, yet there's nothing that says you are accredited to study and do this marketing.
That's a really interesting
Rant over.
point. No, it's a really interesting point, isn't it? I guess, and it's trying to understand again where those level of qualifications make sense. So I love the plumber analogy, and it's like, again, with those as well, it's actually, if just because you qualify 20 years ago, is it still relevant as well? And I guess it's like with driving tests now, I talk about, yes, you passed your driving test when you were 17, but should people take a retest when they're 60? And it's really interesting to see how this develops over time, because you take a qualification and say the fundamentals of marketing, or say this is mastering digital. Now you take that course and it's great, and it's now you've shown that you've actually gone for something, but it's actually how long can you hang your hat on that as something, and how long do you display it for? Because yes, I've got a qualification in again, how long do I hang my hat on the fact that I've got a degree in marketing?
Yep.
It's great because it showed that I committed and did that, but I committed. It feels like it's like I committed 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now I'm a very different person now. I'm actually, I'd say, a much better marketer, but other people would then drop out, and it's a fascinating world, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Particularly, the great analogy, the driving test. It's unreal that you can it used to be, I'm sure it was 16, but you can, at 18, get a driving license, and then you're 60, 42 years later, I think, if my maths is right, 42 years later, you haven't done another test because you can drive. Now, I suppose people will link that to, well, you can ride a bike. No one's going to test you on that. But having said that, you see idiots without any cycle helmet on the road, and you're like, all it takes is a gust of wind, and I'm going to kill you because you're going to go under my tyre, and I've got to live with that for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I completely agree that there needs to be almost a top-up kind of thing for driving, for marketing. I'm sure there is for accountancy. Yeah, every genre should have it.
Exactly, and that's where it comes back to that CPD stuff, isn't it? It's got to be that continual progression. It's not a one-time thing, and I think that's the thing to drum home, isn't it? There's so many different ways and means and benefits you could have, but whichever way you go down, it's got to be continual. It's not stop. No, but thanks so much for coming on today, Peter. It's an absolute blast.
No problem. Loved it.
That's right. But before I let you go,
Okay.
you're not done just yet.
Okay.
Before I let you go, I need to ask you, what other marketing buzzwords are you loving or hating right now? What is grinding your gears, flipping your flop, buzzing your bee? What is making you really angry and frustrated? What do you not like? And also, are you liking? What is a term that's making you go, yes, this has real meaning to me. This is something that I feel I can relate to. So hit me with it, Peter.
Okay, so the one that I really love, and it's almost a negative to be honest, and it's is it a buzzword? I don't know. It is in my life, and that's busy work.
Okay.
I can't stand it, and again, marketing gets tarnished with that brush. Where do we put this? Give it to marketing, and it's busy work, and I've spent a lot of time during my career shifting the SHIT from marketing departments that I've worked in, so we can fundamentally do our job and work on marketing and not do the busy work.
Yeah.
So that's one that I love. I probably say it far too often. That's busy work, pass it on. Busy work, pass it on. I'm going to have two that really grind my gears, if that's okay.
It's rogue, but you know what? You're still alive at the end of this. We haven't fallen out too much, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to do them really quickly before you cut me off. And I think they're both American, as good buzzwords always are. And the first one is reaching out. What are you reaching out to? Why? What? You're just making contact with somebody. Don't reach out. Just say, I'm sending you an email. I'm phoning you. You don't have to reach out. There's no reaching out. It's fine. Don't worry about it. The second one, I love to hate this one because every time somebody says it, it's granular.
Ooh. That I wasn't expecting that, and I like that you've put this one in there. Go hit me with the why.
Because you just want to go into something in detail. That's it. So say it. Why do we need another word for going into detail? So I've been on calls, I've had conversations, and people have said that's great, and now we've looked at that at a top level. But what I really want to do is get granular. And it just reminds me of sand. I'm not that bothered. I'm not really an advocate of sand. It gets everywhere. You find it 10 years later in your beach bag and you're like, why is this still here? And I just pray that granular isn't here in 10 years time. So yeah, that I cannot stand it. It's just, I want to speak about that a little bit more. I want to go into more detail. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. And the reason I liked it as well as one thing I've been thinking about at the moment is people talk about this blue sky thinking. They talk about then you could also use the terms big picture, macro thinking, broadening horizons. All these terms, and actually it's and this is something I trying to cover in the book. Actually, it's differentiating that's jargon more than buzzwords. I feel, and that's words that have no real meaning. You've used another word because the dictionary said it means a similar sort of thing. You've basically gone on thesaurus.com and you've used another word. Actually, you're trying to make yourself sound more clever. And it's a really interesting way of trying to differentiate between jargon and buzzwords, because that you're saying that because it makes you sound like you're going in the most minutiae of detail, when actually all you've done is you've gone smaller. You've gone more detailed, but you're using this word granular because it sounds more powerful, it sounds more authoritative, but actually, look, it means the damn same thing. So I really like that you've chucked that one in there, and I think that if I might have to do like a Room 101 section. I think at the end. I was
thinking that you should do that.
Yeah, so we'll chuck granular in Room 101. I have to get like the little music and go.
Brilliant.
Hey,
love it. Music. You need your own little lever and everything. That's what you need.
That's why this. I think this is almost part of the reason why I could turn this into like a Facebook Live show, and I could have like Room 101 of the big lever and everything. I think the problem is though, I'm definitely not as funny as Frank Skinner, although my hairline is definitely going the same way. So, hey, thanks so much for your time today, Peter. It's been an absolute
pleasure.
Blast. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
This conversation with Peter really opened my eyes. I feel now like I can understand the benefit of qualifications. Now, as I said during the show, I did my degree part-time, and I understood actually that a lot of what I learned in the degree wasn't necessarily relevant. But actually some of those fundamental basics are, whether I think about it or not, they underpin a lot of what I would do as a marketer, and they probably will a lot of what you do as well. Is even if you're not actually thinking about all these different processes and doing this pest analysis, using SOSTAT, all these different marketing theories. Actually, a lot of what that is gives you that fundamental base understanding of what's going on around. If you don't have that fundamental knowledge, then actually how are you supposed to succeed as a marketer? Yes, some people can learn it on the job, and yes, businesses actually adapting so quickly, so I can see there is a huge number of cons. But actually I thought this was a really, really important episode to kick off this season of the podcast with, because I think qualifications still have a place, and actually all too often they're sort of getting dismissed. Now, even if it's not necessarily a marketing qualification exactly, something that really helps you to understand your wider role in the world and actually gives you that broader perspective. I think that is really what's important. I'd love to know your thoughts. Please do comment on any social media posts that you see about this on any of my profiles. And again, if you are loving the show, please do leave a review on iTunes. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it so much. And also remember that you can drop me an email at any time at ben@ben-m-roberts.com. So, let me know what other buzzwords you want demystifying or debunking going forward. And until next week, goodbye.
This podcast is part of the You Are the Media Network.